Good day. Let's say that you have checked the advertisements of the shop and you realize that you want to buy a PlayStation game and the price is 497 Rand and 90 cents. It is then actually much easier thinking of that value as 500 Rand. The same principle happens if you've maybe watched the World Cup rugby final and the reporter said that there's 100,000 spectators at the game. Were there literally 100,000 people? No, they have rounded off the value. So what are we talking about today or in this lesson? Rounding off. When we round off, we are making a number so that it is easier for us to understand. I'm going to write down a huge number and then we will discuss that. While I'm doing it, think already about something we call place value. Let's see if you can read this value in words. Read it for me. 2,398,643,0699. I said you should think about place value. So let's see if we can put our place values there. The 3 will be the units. The 4 is tenths, then we get hundreds, then thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and the millions. And on the right-hand side of the comma, what is the first place value there? Tenths. And I write it with a small t. Hundredths, thousandths, and 10,000. So it's very important that you understand the place value once you need to round off. I'm going to round this value off, and we are going to round it off to all of the important place values. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, let's round it off to the nearest unit, 10, 100, 1,000, and the rest we'll do on the other side of the board. Okay, if you need to round it off to the nearest unit, how do you go about? It is very important that you look at the value on the right-hand side of the rounding position. The rounding position here is the units. So the value on the right-hand side, or the digit on the right-hand side, is a 0. Now, if you have a 0, 1, 2, 3, or a 4, it means that your rounding position will not change. It will stay the same. The digit in the rounding position will not change. If you have a value on the right-hand side of your rounding position, that is a 5 or 6, 7, 8 or a 9, then the digit in your rounding position will increase by 1. Okay, let's have a look. I need to round this off to the nearest unit. On the right-hand side of units, I have my tenths. The tenth, the value in the tenth is a 0. Which means that my rounding position will not change. So if I round this value off to the nearest unit, my value should be, or my number should be 2,398,643. If I need to round it off to the nearest 10, there's the 10. Look at the number on the right-hand side of the 10. That is in the position of the units. My rounding position is now 10. This 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 will not change my rounding position. So the value in the rounding position will not change. So it will become 2,398,640. And then what now? A 3? No, then it needs to be a 0. So the values on the right-hand side of my rounding position, once I've rounded off, should change to a 0. Hundreds. There's my 100. I'm looking at the 4. Will the 4 change the number value in the rounding position? No. So I will have 2,398,600 because the values on the right-hand side of my rounding position should now become a 0. Now you might ask me, but why don't I put comma 0, 0, 0, 0? Boys and girls, because I did not state that it should be 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places. That it will happen if we round off to tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. If you are rounding off to units, tenths, let's say the capital letters, then you stop at your comma. So I'm not going to write that. Let's round this off to the nearest 1,000. The 1,000 is 8. I have a value 6 on the right-hand side of the rounding position. So the 6 will make the rounding position increasing by 1. So that needs to be a 9. 2,399,000. And now zeros. And can I just tell you, have a look at this now. Can you see that when we rounded it off to tens, I have a 0 after my 10. Or I have 1 0. When we had to round it off to hundreds, I had the 2 zeros there. When I round it off to thousands, I have the 3 zeros, at least the 3 zeros. Now, let's round this now off to 10,000, 100,000, and a million. Okay, 10,000. I have in my thousands position, that's on the right-hand side of my rounding position, I have an 8. The 8 will increase the 9 by 1. And then, what is 1 more than 9? 10. Does it mean that I need to write a 10 there? No, no. Now we are getting back to addition like you did maybe in grade 1, 2, 3 and so. Then I will make this a 0 and the 3 should also become 1 more. Let's have a look. So it will become 2,400,000. Okay? And 0, 0, 0. 2,400,000. If I need to round it off to 100,000, means look at the 100,000. I have my 10,000 on the right-hand side of the rounding position. It's a 9. It will increase my rounding position by 1. So it will become 2,400,000. Can you see that the 10,000 and the 100,000 rounding off, is they the same? Did I make a mistake? No, it can happen like that because the 8 increased the 9 by 1 and then I had to also increase the 3 there to a 4. The last one, let's round it off to million. Look at the rounding position. It's the 2. The number on the right-hand side of the rounding position is a 3. The 3 is too small. It will not change the rounding position, so it stays at 2 million. Now, let's say I'm asking you to round it off to the nearest 5. Can you round it off to the nearest 5? It means like now we will count in 5s. So all of these numbers, let's have a look at the last 2. Then we will have a 43 there. So the 43, to count in 5s, it should maybe have been a 40, and then a 45, then a 50, if we only look at those 2. So, the 43. The 43 is closest to which one? The 40, the 45, or the 50? The 45. And because the 43 is closest to the 45, it means that the 3 will change then to a 5. But you still need to write all of these. So 2,398,645. Do you understand? Does it make sense? Let's do the last part. Now we are going to round it off to tenths and hundredths and thousandths. Now careful, if you need to round it off to tenths, it means that you need to have 1 decimal place. If you need to round it off to hundredths, it means there will be 2 decimal places. Why? Because the hundredths, there's 2 spaces after the comma. If you need to round it off to thousandths, then 3 decimal places. Okay, so let's round it off to tenths. I want to round it off to tenths. Look at the value on the right-hand side of the rounding position. It's a 6. Will the 6 be increasing my tenths? Yes. So I will have 2,398,643, comma. I need to have 1 space after the comma. So the 0 becomes a 1, comma 1. If you need to round it off to hundredths, look at your hundredths. Look at the value on the right-hand side of the rounding position. Will the 9 make the 6 1 bigger? Yes. So this will become a 7. So 2,398,643, comma 07. 07. The last one, rounding off to thousandths. There's the thousands, the rounding position. Look at the value on the right-hand side of the rounding position. Will the 9 increase that 9? Yes. And once it's been increased, I need to carry over because the 6 will change to a 7. So it will be 2,398,643, comma. What will be your places? You need to have 3 decimal places. We said that this will become a 7. And that one will become actually a 0. So it will be 070. Is it important to write that 0? Even if it does not change the value? Yes, it is, because the question was that you have to round off to 3 decimal places. Or they could have asked, round it off to the nearest thousandths. And then that will be 3 decimal places. I hope you understand rounding off a bit better. Let's just quickly have a look at what is estimation. If you need to estimate something, it means that you are actually rounding off. But how are you rounding off? You are then rounding off by writing the first digit as a non-zero and all the others as zeros. So let's say estimation, the first digit, a non-zero, 0, others should be zeros. So, if I need to round off this value of us to or estimate this value, I need to round it off to millions. Boys and girls, I hope you understand rounding off like I said. And I hope that you understand that estimation is a type of rounding off. Until next time, goodbye.